Anyway, it's good to be here. Glad everybody came out despite the bad weather. So I think most of you know what we're facing here with this grain giant, EGT, not hiring longshoremen who've done this work on the docks for the last 80 years. We are trying to put maximum pressure to negotiate, but EGT doesn't want to negotiate. They have a workforce in there already, namely operating engineers. Our main enemy is EGT, who's not recognizing longshore jurisdiction, and we're mobilizing the labor movement behind that struggle. We've got tremendous support in the state of Oregon and Washington, as well as down here in the Bay Area. The key focus right now is there's a grain ship that's expected to come into the Port of Oakland in the next couple weeks. Local 10, the longshore local here in San Francisco, passed the motion months ago to organize a caravan. Occupy Oakland is also organizing along with us for this caravan. And the purpose of that is that this grain ship that's coming in is going to be escorted by armed Coast Guard cutters and by helicopters. This is the government militarily intervening on behalf of the employers in a labor dispute. This can't be. We have to make a strong stand here, and that's why we're mobilizing to bring all the workers from the Bay Area, from Portland and Puget Sound down to Longview to stop this scab operation. So there's going to be some nuts and bolts later on about how you sign up for it, but you've got to not only sign up yourselves, but have your union and your organizations sign up, mobilizing people for this, because we don't want a repeat of what happened, a decisive defeat for the working class in 1981 with the PATCO air traffic controller workers, where labor stood by and watched workers, the leaders of the union, being handcuffed and carted off to jail. At that time, the president of the ILWU, Jimmy Herman, made an offer or a suggestion to Wim Pissinger, who was the head of the aircraft mechanics, and he said, the machinists, he said to Wim Pissinger, this is going to be a decisive moment for the labor movement in this country. We need to shut the whole country down over PATCO. But Wim Pissinger didn't respond in a positive way. He sent the machinists through the PATCO picket lines. The pilots and all the other unions went through the PATCO picket lines, and we suffer today for that defeat. We can't have the government intervening on behalf of the employers. That happened under Reagan. Nixon threatened it as well under the postal workers, and now Obama is doing it in his administration. And we've got to put an end to it. The trade unions play a progressive role in our society, or at least they can. If they're organized properly, you know, what we face today is the highest poverty levels in 50 years in the United States. But if people are organized into trade unions, they can fight against their employer for decent wages. That's the idea of unions. Part of the problem is that some of the union leaderships have been co-opted. They believe in a partnership with the employers and say, well, we've got to take concessions. We're not talking about concessions. Trade unions have the ability, if organized properly, to fight for not only their members, but for the working class in general. That's what's supposed here in Longview. If we win this victory in Longview, it's a victory for one of the most militant progressive unions in this country. It's a victory for the entire working class. And conversely, if we lose it, it's going to set back the class struggle in this country for many, many years. So there's no option here. That's what they say in Longview. We've got to win this one. Victory to the Longview Longshore workers.
Everyone can do is sign up to go on the caravan. And Robbie has a sign-up sheet back there. We are trying to get everybody who can take 3 to 5 days off to come up and actually be part of stopping the grain shipment. Local 70.
Yeah. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Kelsey Frazier. I'm a port driver. One of the differences between myself and the other port drivers is I'm an employee.
Light check.
Speak up. Okay. I'm an employee. I have the right to choose whether or not I want to pull a specific load. Let me say I've been at the port for over 30 years. I'm a shop steward. I'm also an elected trustee of my union. All of my officers and officials of Local 70 are elected officials. Okay, we enjoy the benefits of the union, which is good pay, health care, pension, vacation time, which none of the other drivers enjoy. Right? I drive a company truck. It's well maintained and it meets all environmental standards. Right? But I'm a rarity in port trucking. Most of the port drivers are illegally misclassified as independent contractors. They work 60 to 70 hours a week, make poverty level wages, and are denied their employment rights and safety protections on the job. They're also denied a right to join a union. When I started driving, most port drivers were middle class jobs. Most of the drivers were also members of the union. Then deregulation in the trucking industry occurred in the mid-'80s, and it was the beginning of the race to the bottom. Right now, 80% of the port drivers are legally misclassified by their trucking companies as employers and independent contractors, which means that the drivers are forced to be legally and financially responsible for the cost of doing business. Most Oakland port drivers pay for all expenses: truck purchase, maintenance, insurance, fuel, registration, road taxes, bridge tolls. My company pays for all of those things. Right. The companies don't provide any health and welfare or retirement benefits. They avoid paying the minimum wage and skip out on paying their taxes, Social Security, unemployment, and workman's compensation. So if a driver gets hurt or laid off, they have no safety net. Believe me, at times it can be very dangerous work. Imagine hauling 80,000 pounds of cargo and equipment down the highway. Sometimes it's hazardous materials, sometimes it's snow. Most port drivers make about $29,000 a year. On these wages, they cannot afford trucks and the maintenance to meet the highest environmental standards. So we get old trucks that belch diesel exhaust. It causes cancer and asthma among drivers and the West Oakland residents. The drivers are sitting in their cabs all day breathing the diesel soot, and that their companies don't provide health benefits. What does it mean for legitimate companies like mine? It's we get undercut. Let me tell you who's responsible for this and who's profiting for the corrupt system. The goods movement industry is run by some of the richest companies in the world. Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, to name a few, and terminal operators like Maersk and SSA, which is half owned by Goldman Sachs, and are reaping record profits. Speaking to the terminal conditions, drivers wait for hours to get a container, and while they wait, independent contractors don't get paid. They're forced to use substandard equipment, containers with holes and chassis without functioning brakes. And if you need to go to the bathroom, forget it. They won't let you go. Drivers use empty bottles instead. It's not only a human rights abuse, but it causes serious public health problems and diseases are spread. One driver was banned for a terminal because he relieved himself on his truck tire. Terminal operators like Maersk, which is also a shipping line, and Goldman Sachs, half owned by SSA Marine, they own trucking companies too, so they're directly complicit in this illegal sharecroppers on wheels scheme. But it doesn't have to be this way. I'm constantly asking myself why I am able to put my son through college while the guy in the truck next to me, who is doing the very same job, is struggling to keep his home and put food on his table for his family. Port drivers around the country are standing up and demanding their rights. They're telling the trucking companies that they want a union. We ask you to join us in this fight to restore respect and dignity to the port industry, so every port driver will be rewarded with the hard work and with a slice of the American dream. You can start by taking this action. Who has a cell phone? Right? Everybody has a cell phone? It says you can go to the website that's www.cleanandsafeports.org. At the top of the page on the left-hand side it says Take Action. You can click on where it says Take Action and demand an end to dirty air and dead-end jobs. Please sign the pledge to support the truck drivers. Val's got a sign-up sheet, if you would please. You can sign that. When we ask to have an action or a demonstration, we will let you know and ask you to join us. One of the last things I'd like to say is that the Teamsters clearly support the Occupy movement.
Yes.
And thank you. And the other thing I would like to point out is when they ask you why Teamsters are involved, I would tell you that my shirt says it all. It's protecting workers' rights since 1903. We've been in Oakland for 108 years. That's exactly why we're involved, to protect workers' rights. Thank you.
So I'm going to be helping to translate. My name is Leon, but first we're going to just do introductions to who we have here today.
Mi nombre es Arturo, trabajo para Castlemont por 3 años, soy busser.
My name is Arturo. I've worked at Castlewood for 3 years. I'm a busser.
Mi nombre es Marcos, trabajo en la cocina por 3 años.
My name is Marcos. I've worked in the kitchen at Castlewood for 3 years.
Soy Alfredo, trabajé por 1 año y medio en Castlewood como en mantenimiento.
I worked for 1.5 years in Castlewood in maintenance.
Hi, my name is Teresa. I'm a bank server. I work at Castlewood for 6 years.
Mi nombre es Carlos Hernández, trabajé por Castlewood por 5 años, soy cocinero.
My name is Carlos. I'm a cook at Castlewood for 5 years.
Bueno, primero que nada, gracias por el tiempo que nos dan.
First of all, thank you all for the time to speak here today.
Queremos explicarles un poco sobre nuestra lucha.
I want to explain to you a little bit about our struggle.
Hace 2 años empezamos unas negociaciones con el club para renovar un contrato.
About 2 years ago, we started contract negotiations with our union contract negotiations with the Castlewood Country Club.
La proposición de Castlewood fue que quería que nosotros empezáramos, después de tener por muchísimos años la cobertura de salud totalmente gratis, querían que empezáramos a pagarla.
So one of the main proposals that the club had is even though we had family medical insurance for free for many years, the club wanted us to start paying for it.
Y querían que pagáramos la cantidad por aseguranza familiar de $730.
So they wanted us to pay only $730 per month for the family medical insurance, up from zero.
Cuando el promedio del salario es de todos los trabajadores es de $12 por hora.
Our average wage are only $12 an hour.
Resultaba imposible para nosotros pagar esa cantidad.
So that is of course impossible for us to pay for family medical insurance.
La mayoría, bueno, muchos de nosotros no tenemos hijos ni personas a quien necesitemos darle cobertura, pero decidimos no aceptar esa proposición por nuestros compañeros que sí tienen más familia con hijos.
So in my case personally, and some of us, we don't have families or we don't have kids. I personally decided, and some of us decided that didn't have families, that we weren't going to accept the contract either for our coworkers that did have kids and did have families.
So, después decidimos que no aceptábamos el contrato porque aparte nos querían quitar la señoría y querían que los managers de ahora en adelante decidieran, la señoría nadie iba a contar, no íbamos a tener seguridad en el trabajo.
One of the other proposals, and one of the other reasons why we decided not to accept the company's proposal, is they wanted to eliminate seniority. They wanted to make it so that managers from now moving forward would be able to decide who could work based on however that manager felt.
Entonces, al momento que no aceptamos la proposición, el 25 de febrero del 2010 nos hicieron un lockout.
When we decided not to accept the company's last and final proposal on February 25th, 2010, the company locked us out of our jobs.
Un mes después de eso hicieron una elección para descalificar la unión, la cual los miembros nos mantuvimos unidos y ganamos la votación 41 votos contra 16.
So then the company tried to get rid of the union while we were locked out and had a decertification vote with the National Labor Relations Board. We kept united and we kept strong. We voted to keep our union 41-17.
La compañía no quiso aceptar que nosotros queremos mantener la unión y siguieron con el lockout, y contrario a lo que pasa, ellos cada negociación, sus propuestas han sido cada vez peores.
So instead of, after we won our union vote to keep our union, instead of ending the lockout, they've kept us locked out for another year and a half. And every time we have negotiations, the company's proposals get worse.
Cada vez han sido peores las amenazas, porque las amenazas han ido desde que no vamos a regresar a trabajar nunca, hasta que el día de la diversificación nos iban a enviar a la policía y al sistema de inmigración.
So every time their threats against us also get worse. So first they told us we would never come back to work. Once we were locked out, we would never work there again. They've even told us that they were going to send police or immigration when we were doing the decertification election to try to scare people from coming to vote.
Seguimos firmes y no vamos a dar un paso atrás y seguimos luchando y vamos a seguir luchando por la causa.
But we've stayed strong, we're staying together, and we're going to keep struggling and keep moving forward for what we deserve.
Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you for your time.
Bueno, buenas tardes a todos y antes que nada quiero darle las gracias por habernos invitado en mi nombre y en nombre de todos mis compañeros.
So, good afternoon. Thank you. I want to thank all of you for inviting us in my name and the name of all my coworkers. Thank you for your support.
Como dijo el compañero anteriormente,
Like my coworker and comrade said earlier,
tenemos 2 años afuera del trabajo.
we've been out of our jobs for 2 years.
Lo único que nosotros, nuestro único delito fue
The only thing that we ever did wrong was
no haber aceptado un contrato
to accept the company's contract proposal,
que estaba violando todos nuestros derechos como personas y como trabajadores.
which was going to violate all of our rights, like people and like workers.
Uno de los principales puntos por los que yo no acepté ese contrato
One of the main points why I decided not to accept this contract,
es de que nos quieren quitar la aseguranza médica
because they wanted to get rid of our health insurance.
y yo tengo 3 hijos pequeños que necesitan esa cobertura médica.
And I have 3 small children that need this coverage.
Por eso estamos luchando día con día
This is why we're fighting every day.
y para muestra de eso el miércoles pasado
One demonstration of this is last Wednesday.
tuvimos que comparecer ante una corte federal en el edificio que está al lado.
I went to testify in front of federal court in the federal building right over here on Clay.
Yo y 5 de mis compañeros
Myself and 5 other co-workers of mine.
estuvimos testificando y dando nuestra declaración
We're giving our testimony and declarations
para tratar de convencer y demostrarle tanto al juez como a nuestros empleadores
to demonstrate to the administrative law judge of the National Labor Relations Board and to demonstrate to our company
que están cometiendo una injusticia con nosotros.
that what they're doing is unjust to us.
Eso es todo. Muchas gracias por su tiempo y atención.
Thank you for your support and for your time.
On February 25th is our 2-year anniversary, and we have a big march. We're here to ask you, everybody, to come support us. Everybody support us, and it will make difference. Thank you.
So like Teresa just said, on February 25th is the 2-year anniversary of the lockout. We're planning a big march and a lot of other actions on February 25th at the Castlemont Country Club, which is out in Pleasanton. Occupy Oakland General Assembly last Sunday passed 135-0, a resolution supporting the Castlewood workers' struggle. And we will send out and have leaflets and more information for folks about the 2-year anniversary march that we're going to have from downtown Pleasanton to the Castlewood Country Club. I don't know how many of you have been to Pleasanton, raise your hand. I know Anne's marched with us a bunch, and Francois and Alessandro, a bunch of other folks. But Pleasanton is the center of the 1% in the East Bay. Pleasanton is a place where they explicitly set up so that people don't have to live among workers, so that people don't have to live among people of color, so that people, white, rich people, can fly far away to Pleasanton and not have to see what happens in Oakland. And so every day, including this morning from 8 to 11 and most afternoons from 4 to 6:30, workers are marching in the middle of the golf course in Pleasanton, reminding those folks with drums and bullhorns that we are the 99% and that we're going to continue to struggle until we get justice. So We want to thank you all for your time today. We'll send you information about that. The Castlewood Country Club, you only have to pay $25,000 to join, and people pay $650 a month monthly dues for the privilege to play golf there. Their green fees and their food and beverage and their drinks and their cart rental is all on top of that. With $650 a month just to play golf. And so we've had an active boycott, tons of people are pulling out their events, and lots of things have been going on. We can give you more updates. If you go to the website endthelockout.org, you can see a great video of when they had their biggest golf tournament last year, the Invitational Golf Tournament, where 25 folks sat down in the middle of the road, blocked the road, and prevented folks from being able to play golf and were arrested. Alameda County spent $250,000 that day on sheriffs to take workers and community members and interfaith leaders out of the middle of the golf course so that rich people could play golf. And if you go to the website endthelockout.org, you can find out more about our struggle. Thank you all for your support.
Prepared, so I don't know how good this will be, but on 3 days' notice, we mobilized 100 people to be out at the picket line at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we met over there at 4 and kind of all drove over there. We had 100 people there, and although we weren't successful at blocking all the scabs from coming in, we stopped 3 different delivery trucks, as well as probably about half of the scab labor force they tried to bring in. And I mean, beyond that, despite what happened on Tuesday, I mean, you could see from being there in the week before a visible change in just kind of the tenor of the strikers themselves. I mean, both of like people coming and bringing support, and also just kind of being able to take greater risks than they had been taking. And so, I mean, the union had said none of the workers are going to try and block anything coming in or out of the plant. And at first, that was the case. The first SUV that rolled up was management. He tried to cross the line. All of the workers left the line that was there, leaving, we're probably 11 Occupy people there at the time. And we were able to turn him back. And then when the van of scabs rolled up, all of the workers joined the line, 30 workers en masse. And so that, to me, was probably the biggest success of the day, despite what happened on Tuesday. So, I mean, what happened on Tuesday, I mean, isn't just in relation to what happened on Monday. I mean, obviously, those workers have been on strike for a month, and their ability to go another 3 weeks or more, which is what they were looking at, was kind of the pressure that kind of brought them to fold, or a number of them to fold anyways.
And the Union City Police.
Yeah. And the Union City Police, who helped the security guards break the line on several instances.
Today, I'm Jessie Muldoon. I teach at Oakland High School. I'm a member of the OEA. I'm going to give just a little bit of a little report back, an announcement about the Day of Action for Education. 2 years ago, educators and activists around the state organized a day of action against budget cuts and for public education. Last year we had another day of action, and last year, if people remember, public sector workers and teachers occupied the State House in Madison, Wisconsin for a while to protest union busting and the general attack on public sector workers. This year we're going to organize again on March 1st and March 5th. The details are forthcoming. We're extremely excited. I'm extremely excited as a teacher and as an activist in Occupy that these things are starting to come together. The events on March 1st, there are going to be convergences here at Oscar Grant Plaza, as well as rallies at Laney, as well as events up and down the state. I totally lost my train of thought. I got it back. And as well, last year, if people remember, there was an occupation at the State House up in Sacramento. Details and plans for that type of stuff are still forthcoming, and they're still being worked out. But those dates, March 1st through 5th, keep those in your calendar for a day of action for public sector and education. And the last thing I want to say just about the OEA, we've been so excited to be part of the Occupy movement. We have seen cut after cuts after cuts. Last year we had, I can't even remember how many people got layoff notices. 700, which is about 25%. Is that about 25% of our workforce? We're expecting massive layoff notices again this year. That'll be around March 15th. And we're hoping that these, what does that mean?
10 seconds.
Okay, we're hoping that the Day of Action brings education into the Occupy movement, and yeah, thank you. Thanks.
And I was up here with Jesse. My name is Betty Olson-Jones. I'm the president of the Oakland Education Association. I just want to continue where she left off. Last year, May 9th through 13th was called as a week of occupation in Sacramento at the state capitol. Unfortunately, our parent union, California Teachers Association, turned that into a much more of a lobbying effort. But thanks to students from Santa Cruz, including Leo, including Santa Cruz, Sacramento, San Francisco, and a bunch of teachers, we decided we were staying in the state capitol. We were going to occupy it just like they did in Wisconsin. So 70 of us were arrested. We're prepared to go up and do the same thing again, because if we don't sit down and demand our rights, we are going to lose everything. I wanted to speak very briefly about some of the attacks on teachers through trying to take away seniority and busting our union. We're currently being offered something called mutual matching. I'm calling it mutualmatch.com. It's basically a way of, oh, we want to be able to pick the teachers we want and get rid of the ones we don't. It's an attack on seniority. So we'll be updating you more as that goes on. One of the foremost proponents of attacks on teachers and attacks on public education is coming to Oakland on February 7th. How many of you have heard of Michelle Reed? If you haven't, you need to know. She is the corporate whore for privatization. She is backed by the Koch brothers, by Scott Walker, by Eli Broad, by Bill Gates, by the Waltons. And she's coming with her brand of education reform, we call it deform, to the Paramount Theater on February 7th. Be there at 7 o'clock. We'll get more information to you. She's speaking at 8. Costs $90 a ticket, so we won't be going inside. We'll be outside to welcome her and let people know that re-speak is actually absolute deform and it's union busting. I think that's
What
it.
date is that?
February 7th, Tuesday, February 7th. 7.
Paramount Theater.
February 7th. We'll have flyers and leaflets about it. And then again, on March 1st and March 5th, it's really critical that people get involved in that, because we are watching the end of public education.
Now they're going to the next step. They're trying to get rid of their employees. They're laying off employees. They've announced that on the 18th they will send out over 1,500 notices to city employees that they're being laid off. It may only amount to 400 layoffs. That's a lot of layoffs. The city knows how important this is to the community. They are trying to dismantle public services. They are trying to dismantle libraries. They are trying to dismantle Head Start programs. Our workers are the ones that provide those services. We've got to be out here. The city will be holding public meetings on the 25th of January to try to pass these layoffs. They will actually be implementing the layoffs on February 1st. Our union will be out here. We hope to be working with Occupy to stop the dismantling of the government system. This is just starting now. It's going to be going on. Let's stop it before it gets any momentum. Thank you.
A teacher down in Fremont, and I actually went out to the American Licorice, and you know, some of the things that they are fighting for are obviously things that teachers are fighting for as well. They're attacking our health care benefits. They're wanting us to work longer times. They were so encouraging when we were down there. When I went down there, and so happy that people came, and they had such high expectations of the occupation forces, and they wanted people to come down. They saw what people did in Oakland and shut down that port that day. That's what needs to happen when we go to Longview. That is the biggest thing that we need to do. They had so many things that they were up against. They had the not just the Union City Police. They had Fremont police that came. They had Newark police that came down to try and stop the Occupy movement from stopping trucks from coming in. So I think we need to learn from the lessons that, you know, we learned so much when we have losses. Like the American Licorice strike wasn't exactly a victory for our side, but we can learn something from it so that we're able to move forward.
In my union, we're having a contract struggle. Our contract expires tonight at midnight. My contract is the contract that covers the subway and train workers of the entire New York City. In 2005, when my union struck, the city shut down. That's unlikely to happen this time around. However, it is a struggle that Occupy Wall Street is supporting. There's also a struggle much like Castlewood that serves the 1%. Sotheby's is an auction house that serves the 1% when they sell art. They also have been locked out, similar to what you guys are going on. I just wanted to share some of the things that are going on because I think it's important to have solidarity. Just like the surprising things that you see going on like Occupy Nigeria, that really workers around the world have the same fight and the same enemy, and I think it's important to share. And one thing we're talking about in New York is the May 1st. Inspired very much by Occupy Oakland's call for a general strike, a lot of people in New York City are also talking about calling for a general strike on May 1st, International Workers' Day. That's not official yet, but that's what the discussion is. And lastly, the one struggle that a lot of people in New York City, we just had a meeting on Friday evening in the labor outreach, was the Longview struggle. So what people proposed there to do was to, whenever you guys find out about what's happening the day of action, that we'll do a support action against the Coast Guard facility in New York City at the Federal Building and protest there in support of the Longview struggle.
It's education, but a lot of people really support benefiting education, and this is a 15% tax on oil and gas that comes out of the ground or waters off our coast that will benefit K-12, community colleges, and the other higher ed institutions. So we need people to help gather signatures. Did I bring my copies? No. But also, if you are approached, don't say I've already signed it, since there's obviously going to be quite a number of issues that are going to be decided on the ballot.
My name is Fernando Braga. I'm a member of Transport Workers Union Local 100.
And what are the issues that you're facing?
We're facing a budget crisis. The MTA is a public agency that's being starved of public funds, and instead the banks have been making loans to fund transit, and as a result, the public money that is being put into transit, instead of going to fund transit, is getting instead to the interest payments on the loans to the banks. So Wall Street is definitely using the MTA rather, the Metropolitan Transit Authority, as their own ATM.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a track worker.
And what are the conditions for workers in the
It's generally a dirty, dangerous job that is not seen as just, as same as firefighters and police who face the same dangers with a whole lot less pay and less, attacked a lot in the media.
Scapegoated
to for the problems of the public. But I think most of New Yorkers realize, and I'm more and more realizing, that transit workers and riders have the same interests and the same enemy.
And what about the Taylor laws? Why don't you talk about why they're threatening you as far as going on strike and that kind of thing?
In New York State, all public sector workers are banned from job actions. In those exact words, any kind of job action is illegal, and there's well, actually not banned from doing it. There's a penalty for taking job actions, and so in 2000,
what is it? Oh yeah, go on.
In 2005, my union went on strike for nearly almost 3 days, and as a result, my union was fined over $2 million in fines. The local, as an organization, each member who went on strike was fined 2 days pay for every 1 day on strike. And also our union president was jailed for several days, and
And are they trying to threaten the local now? I mean, as far as the contract expiring?
Their Taylor law, as management reminds us all the time, is always in effect. It's never not in effect, and the threat against the Taylor law is ever present. However, the reality is was shown by wasn't the first strike in 2005, and is that it's a penalty for taking job actions. And in 1980, my union, the TWU Local 100, also went on strike, but they went out for 11 days, and they fought and won amnesty for the Taylor law.
And what is the relationship of TWU to the Occupy movement in New York City? Why don't you talk about that and what was happening with labor and Occupy?
Transport Workers Union Local 100 was the first labor union to officially endorse and support Occupy Wall Street, and had a close relationship in terms of supporting Occupy and fighting against bus operators carrying Occupy demonstrators who were being detained by the police and carrying them to detention facilities. So our union took that to court and lost, but we fought for against the police and for the Occupy protesters.
And is there solidarity between Occupy and the bus union, TWU?
There is solidarity, and there's talks of doing more from Occupy. And so today, on Sunday, the January 15th, Occupy is is going to be at our demonstration for our contract, which expires tonight at midnight.
And you talked about May 1st. Why don't you talk about that? What's going on with May 1st?
May 1st is going to be a lot of organizing going on in New York City. There have traditionally been protests the last few years. Occupy is going to help organize and take part in that, and still taking shape. And so one of the things that are being discussed is a general strike.
What would that mean?
I think what it would mainly mean is that a lot more people will talk about what a general strike is. I'm in the union that if they're going to be a general strike, we would be the ones to do it, and we're probably not going to be doing it. However, so it wouldn't mean that everyone in New York City is not going to go to work. However, there's probably going to be a large demonstration, larger than usual. Last year was a little more than 10,000. This year could be many, many times bigger. And I think the idea of 30,000 people getting together and talking about a general strike would be a success, I think.
And what's your name?
Fernando Braga.
How long have you been a member of the union?
4 years.
4 years? You like working? MTA?
I like getting a paycheck, yeah. Paychecks are good.